Hope you guys had a wonderful week, and it's great to welcome you to the last week of the semester. You've noticed we've got through everything we needed to, and there's a couple things that I wanted to touch on that will help you to get the best grade that you can. Plus, that will help you if to understand how we're winding the term up. I wanted to show you my screen here. Let's see. All right, so this is what we did last week, careers in the arts. This week is week 15, and we're just talking about final projects. And I wanted to let you know about the class final. We do have a final for this. It is online, but it is not a test. And it is due, as you can see on this, on December 15th, midnight, December 15th, the very last day of finals. And I will open this to you on the morning of Monday, December 11th, the first day of finals. That way you'll have access to it all week long. Now what this is going to be is I just have 4 questions about your own personal experience, and you're going to write about it. So for each question, you write at least 35 words, responding to the question and the question prompts. This will give you a total of at least 140 words. To get full points on your final for this class, what you need to do, and I'll change this deadline right here. I'll change that right now so it says December 15th at 11:59 p.m. If you're, I wanted to go through this really quick with you, and now I don't want to show you the questions just yet. You'll see those on Monday. Your final for this class is not a stereotypical test. What your final is you're going to write thoughtful reflections answering 4 different questions. Each question needs to have 35 words or more. These 35 words do not include the prompt that I write down, and they do not include a title or anything like that. Or if you have a citation or a link or anything like that, it doesn't include any of that. Those 35 words are your own words. Each answer needs to be clearly written using proper grammar and spelling, and they need to be your own thoughts and reflections and responses without using ChatGPT or another AI writing program. ChatGPT has a very formal language, and she tries really hard to sound like a human being, but most of the time, if you are writing, especially if you are writing your opinion, her voice will not be your voice, so it will be different. If it reads like ChatGPT, then you'll receive a 0, and you will have the opportunity to resubmit, make your submission again in your own writing. And I will be looking at these every day, and if I see this, I'll do it right away, but to your time frame, if you want to use ChatGPT and try to get away with it, turn it in right away. Because if I don't see this until Friday at 6 p.m. and then send it to you, say, please rewrite this because it sounds like ChatGPT, you can either write me back, you won't have a lot of time. If I do see that it reads like ChatGPT, what I will need you to do is rewrite it so it sounds like your own voice. And if you honestly do write like that, then explain to me that you write like that. I've taught this class several times. I've had hundreds of students go through it. And all that time, I have had a couple people who have social anxiety intense enough that they depend on a ChatGPT or other AI writing program to put their thoughts together and they use that as a model and then rewrite it in their own words. And that is perfectly fine. One of those students accidentally sent me her write-up, her rough draft before she rewrote it. And I just let her know it sounded too much like GPT. And she said, well, that's because it is. This is how I write. And I'm sorry, I did not catch it in time. So she was a lot more careful for the rest of the term, but that was a good thing for me to see and for me to know, because I realized through that it can help. And I've used ChatGPT as well in my own writing. It does help to put ideas and thoughts together. However, you cannot use it and turn it in as its own thing, as it's written. You should get into the habit, especially now, of making sure that you change it into your own language. Now, I think Chat, the way that she's growing now is she will get to the point where she will be able to put it into your own words. But she's also reminded me that students have just used it when she's written, I'm sorry, I don't have an opinion about this because I'm a program rather than somebody who can have an opinion. Which I think is kind of funny when a student turns that in without reading it even. At least have the respect for yourself to read over that work and put it into your own verbiage. Even if you don't think anybody's going to catch you, it makes it a lot more worthwhile. Chad does the best that she can, but again, if you turn this in and it reads like her writing, you'll get 0, and you will have until the assignment is closed to rewrite it in your own words. And it doesn't mean you have to rewrite the whole thing. You can use the ChatGPT write out as a model, which I have done, but it does need to be in your voice. So rewrite the words, order the words, whatever you need to, so it sounds like your voice. That's an important thing. So your grade for this whole thing is that those 4 answers that you give are in your voice, and that they're your own reflections. The classes of these kind are big enough that I have had people before try to, 2 people gotten together and wrote every other question and turned it in. And I think that's pretty funny. It is a lot less work and a lot less embarrassment just to do it yourself, and especially because I'm just asking your own experience. So that is the first thing I wanted to talk about. The next thing I wanted to talk about is, how do you increase your grade? There's a number of things. Canvas gives you a list of assignments to do. And those assignments, if I grade them, you can see what grade you've gotten. The 3 easiest things to pump up your grade numbers are, first, to write down your attendance and submit that for each of the videos, attendance videos. That's number 1. The second one is to look at all of your quizzes, and whichever ones don't have perfect scores, go back and redo them. You can, I have it set so that you can redo them 30 or 40 times if you want to. Hopefully you don't need to, but you can redo them more than once. And then the third biggest thing is to make sure that all of your assignments, that everything that you've done is submitted. You will get 0s. You may get 0s on a couple of assignments that you haven't turned in. Those 0s will change as soon as I see that you have submitted the assignment. And that helps your grade immediately. Another really, really big thing to do is to just check and make sure that I have recorded everything that you know that you've turned in. If there's anything I've missed, or you've submitted a comment to change a grade, or you've resubmitted something and I haven't taken care of it, email me as soon as you possibly can so I can take care of that right away. I would like to get all this done, everything done, by the Sunday night. If we can possibly do that, I want to get everything done by Sunday night, so before you go into finals, you know where you stand. And right now, Everything that has been turned in since midnight of last night has been graded. There's a couple things that were turned in this morning that I need to take care of. If you see that I've missed things, again, let me know as soon as you possibly can, and I will take care of that right as soon as I possibly can. Another way to add to grades is if, for example, on your PowerPoint or your bibliography or any of the other assignments, if you're missing a couple points and I make a notation, I comment on it and say, this is great, but you need to add this for more points, or you need to do this, or you didn't get that in the right order, or whatever it is. Look at those comments and make the changes that are needed and resubmit. When you resubmit, Canvas does alert me and tell me. When you make a comment, it doesn't. And I've been trying to figure out how to get that so that I can get that notification. That hasn't happened yet. When you resubmit an assignment that I've left a comment on, and you've resubmitted it to get a higher grade, email me and I will take care of that as soon as I possibly can. Again, like I said, I would prefer to get all this taken care of by Friday night, so you have a weekend to do something else. But if you're under the pressure to get everything done, then get it done by Sunday night if you possibly can. And I did want to mention too that I know that finals can be a really difficult time and very stressful. I am not so old that I don't remember my own finals and how irritatingly, frustratingly stressful those were for me. If you have issues with finals, if things are not coordinating right, if things are just not working right, as soon as you possibly can, I would recommend talking to the accommodations office. My friend Baco over there is incredibly kind, incredibly helpful, and he does everything he possibly can to help you find the resources that you need that he can possibly do to help. And he and his staff over there know what to do. And sometimes it's maybe as simple as emailing the teacher with this kind of a phrase, or having him email the teacher and he can help take care of things. So if you're feeling stressed out, definitely do that. I've had several students involved with, for example, traffic accidents coming home from a holiday, or somebody in the family is sick and gave it to them, or something like that, and they just need a little bit of extra time but didn't know what to do to get that. They've gone over to the accommodations office and they've got taken care of. So, and usually it's just the accommodations office telling me to cut them some slack, and then because it's an official letter, then I can do that. And I can't stress enough to make sure that all your attendance stuff is submitted, and I can't stress enough to double check your own grades and make sure that those are all up to snuff, that everything you've done is submitted, and then remind me to grade it if I don't do that. And by right away, I mean usually within, at this point in the semester, it's within 6 or 12 hours. If you submitted at 2 o'clock in the morning, most of the time I won't get to grade it until the next morning, or until later on that day by like lunchtime or something. And so don't get too stressed out, but give me about 10 or 12 hours and I should be able to grade things, and then you can start emailing me. Another thing I wanted to do is share with you a couple of the presentations that people have made and turned in. There's still a few out there that need to be done. And I wanted to share with you a couple examples of previous classes, what they did for the Sundiata Ancient Mali Empire project. We use your critical thinking skills to look at the Malinese art and then create something from your experience in materials and with the aesthetic look that links it to that Mali empire of 700 years ago. I haven't received any of those being turned in. They're not due until Sunday. But if you have any doubts about it, turn in what you have now and ask questions, and then on the comments I can tell you what to do. I think before, let's see, before we look at the artwork, what I want to do is share with you a couple different presentations. And these are presentations, I believe, that are both from this class. And the reason I want to share them with you is it just gives you a sample of what kind of work people are doing. And I think that you guys have been doing exceptional work. So let me share this really quick here. I have had a couple students contact me and say, hey, here's a PowerPoint, I just can't get it to record. And what is annoying from your student perspective about that is you should, as part of your package of being a full-time student here, I was told that you had access to PowerPoint, and that's the reason why I use it. And if there is a problem with that, I would contact your guidance counselor or your tech support people and see what they can do to help. That's one thing. Second, the PowerPoint, if you, let's see, I'm going to see if I can open up PowerPoint right now, and I'll show you where it is. This, again, is kind of frustrating to me because you should have the up-to-date, most current PowerPoint. And if you don't, then, again, reach out to tech support and see what you can do, what they can do to help you get that. Let's see. So I am switching over so that you can see this. Okay, I'm stopping that share, and then I'm opening up another window. Okay, this is a PowerPoint I made over Thanksgiving exploring the architecture of Prince Humperdinck's castle. The reason why I'm sharing this with you is that if you look up here at the top, you have, going from the left, you have File, Home, which is this screen, Insert, which will show that up, Draw, which gives you a bunch of markers and different techniques to draw with, Design, which shows you different templates. The sixth one over is Transitions. Then there's Animations. Then there's Slideshow. And then, what is that? 3, 6, 7, 8. The ninth one over says Record. And this is the ninth tab from the far left. The first one is File, then there's Home, Insert, Draw, Design, Transitions, Animation, Slideshow, and Record. When you look at that Record button, it gives you several different options. And one of them is you can save as a show, as a separate slideshow file. You can hit Learn More on the far right-hand end. And you can also start recording from the beginning over at the left-hand end. It shows you preview, then there's Cameo with a camera, then there's from the beginning. And you record that, it will record a movie file that has both your PowerPoint in it as well as your voice narrating. Now, the PowerPoint itself, see, I'm going to stop sharing that. The PowerPoint itself is important, but the thing that's more important is the recording of your narration over your PowerPoint so we can hear what you're thinking about the images that you're sharing. There's been a number of people that have said, I can't access PowerPoint, it's not working. I can't record it, that's not working. And There are other ways of doing this, and I want to show you this one option. You can hold your camera up and make a video of you presenting your slideshow and talking about it, and then you can record that as an MOV file or a WAV file or an MP4 file, and submit that as your annotated as your PowerPoint presentation. This person, you can did the PowerPoint slides on their computer and took an image video of it with your phone, and then went through the whole thing, and that is great. There's little tripods you can get. You can do that. I've also had another student who made a Teams call, and the only person on the Teams call was her. And she actually, I've had several students do this, and she did a screen share like I'm doing now with her presentation and presented it as a recorded video file on Teams. Again, a call that was just to herself. And then when she was all done, she had a recorded file that she could send and submit as a project. And both of those are great. So I want to share this with you. We're going to watch this right now. This person, again, PowerPoint was not working right, and so they recorded on their phone while they're talking about it.
I'm not 100% sure how to film it on PowerPoint because I don't have PowerPoint, and I tried to get it, but it made me pay for it. So I just did it on slides, and I'll just be videoing it and sending it in. I did mine on Paul Klee, and Paul Klee created many different extraordinary projects that were unlike anyone else's, I would say. This is one of his top ones, especially ones that I loved. It is called The Castle and Sun. His artwork was created back in 1928, and it is an oil canvas painting. Most of his paintings were the oil canvas paintings. Paul mastered the technique of cubism perfectly, as you can see throughout this art piece. This abstract work of art was the figures that are deconstructed to form interesting images. So if you can see where they're all different shapes and sizes, and if you look closely, you really can see castles and a sun with a little bit of your imagination. But if you look throughout the image, you can see the small pops of color, and that is what Paul used as a great technique to kind of show, let the eye kind of follow throughout the image and look around and not just focus on one specific part of the painting, that you were able to keep seeing more, and it kind of breaks it all up. Like I said, with the browns, it kind of makes it all stand out a little more. This is one of his other paintings called The New Harmony. This one as well was an oil painting on canvas as well. This was created in the year of 1936, and this is the former abstractly depicts nail impressions throughout geometric patterns. So if you look and see all of the different colors on the painting to the right, you can see all of the different, not shapes, but squares, and not one of them is necessarily the same size, which I liked. This one was called Fish Magic. This one was kind of a different style that he took on. This one was not a lot of shapes and different shapes and different colors. This one is more images that he created. This was created in the year of 1925. He creates a magical realm just with the aquatic and the celestial and like the earthly, so you can kind of see it all with the fish and the flowers up in the top corner, and you can kind of just see it all. And then down in the bottom kind of right-ish, middle right, you can see that he created an animal that is where the celestial part kind of comes into that. So this black surface creates an eye-catching to each of the different things where you can almost see all of them, but with the black background, they stand out quite a bit more. At the center of the painting, there's a square muslin that is glued on top of the canvas, and it's just a long diagonal line. So it kind of, to me, looks like a fishing pole, but I know it's not, but it allows you to kind of create your own images. But it is a clock tower, is what I ended up figuring out what it was. And then these are all of my sources that I used.
All right, I think that's great. Before I turn off this screen share, I wanted to show you, if we go to, this is in a playlist for our community, and we go over to these playlists that we have. If we look at 1010 section 44 PowerPoints, this is a playlist that allows you to see everybody's presentations that they've done for this semester. They are not in alphabetical order. They're just however this machine decided to load them in, whatever that order is. And as I can, I am loading these up after I grade them. And usually I will go back and give you a direct link to it so you can save and treasure it always. What I like about that presentation that was just done on Paul Clay by Kelly is that even though she was not able to use, they were not able to use PowerPoint the way it's supposed to be. And again, I'm pretty sure you guys are supposed to have access through your tuition. And if that's not the case, somebody find out and tell me. But you should be able to get that working by talking to the on-campus tech guys. So, and if for whatever reason you don't have access to that, there's other ways of making the slide presentations. I cannot get into Google Docs, so don't send it that way. But one thing you can do is make these slides up on JPEGs or Word doc or something like that, and do something similar to what Kelly did, and just record yourself scrolling through the pages that you've made. That's another way of doing it, that I've had students do that before as well. I want to share another one. This person did their presentation and recorded it and then put it on a file company similar to YouTube that's not YouTube. I think they did it through Canva Design. So let's go ahead and watch this one.
Hey guys, I chose the artist David Smith. David Smith is known for metal sculpture art, and on this slide are 2 photos of some of the art he made. David was originally born in Indiana before moving to New York in 1926. David was always into the art scene growing up, and even when he had his 2 daughters. And then he moved to New York City to be more involved in like the art world. David quickly realized he did not want to be in the city and moved to a small New York town. And that is where he continued to create art in his shop-like style office. David only called it his shop, never his studio. David first started creating his art in 1931 at his home in New York. And David passed away in 1965 after a car accident. David was one of the first known sculpture artists. He put together different art using what he had laying around in his shop. In his garage, David would use metal pieces laying around to create sculpture art. I remember reading an article saying that he would lay down metal pieces and kick them around with his feet until he created something that he liked, and then he would bring the welder down and weld it together. So that's kind of what he focused on. He didn't draw things out ahead of time. He just would put it together right then and there, weld it, and that was his art. Now that David is passed away, his family did want to carry on his art and have an area that represented his art. So there is an art gallery. It's outdoors. It's in New York City, but it literally is a huge grass area. I can't remember how many acres it is, but it's huge. And he just put out his art like it is in this photo. It's just laying out there on the grass. And I guess that was one of the things that he liked to show, was part of the art is how the sun hits it. So I really like this photo because you can see the lines in it, and that's what he loved to show was how the sun hits the art, and that was part of his idea. Was it's not just about what it looks like, but it's how the light hits it as well. One thing I really liked about David was he believed that art is not always created on paper, but rather it can be created anywhere, even in his welding shop. So I thought that was cool and a good way to represent art, 'cause it's not always on paper, it's not always a drawing or a painting. It can be anything that makes you feel expressed. And I liked that about David, that even in his welding shop, he could find art. And then these are my list of sources that I used. Thank you.
All right, I think this is another really good example. And I'm going to move it right to here. Another thing I like about this is with the access phrase on. Whenever you do anything like this, how you should be presenting this when you're all done is have these be in alphabetical order like this is. And at the end of everything, either pick retrieved on or accessed on and include that phrase at the end of each of your citations. All right. And as you do more stuff and move closer to graduation, I would recommend refining this until it's a pretty good system. One of the sources that I like to help you come together, put together things, and it's called MLA style. One of the sources that I particularly appreciate is called Citation Machine. And Citation Machine, the website for that is citation, CITATION, machine, MACHINE.net. And on those, it has a thing that says create citations, and you can click on that, and it will help you generate the citation so it matches MLA standard, and it's just right for your schooling. So that's really good advice that I was given, and I hope that you guys follow it as well as you do things. Now, so both of those are really fine examples of the kind of thing that we are looking for. And now I wanted to show you a couple of the final projects that students have done. Again, the final project, which is due Sunday night at midnight. And if you're stressing about that and everything like that, and you need more time, contact me right away, and I will do whatever I can to help you. But again, this final project is you've learned about Sundiata. You've seen a lot of Mali artwork from that time period. Now you're going to use your personal experience and find something from today's world that you can translate into something that looks like it belongs in the Mali Empire. I'm sorry, I thought I was sharing. So you need to do something that you can show looks like it belongs in the Mali Empire. And people have turned in theme parks, water parks, buildings, all sorts of kind of stuff. And one thing you can do is, I'm sorry, I made a mistake there. Okay, one thing you can do is make it life-size. Another thing you can do is make a scale model of it. And another thing you can do is do a detailed drawing of it. Depends on what you are the most comfortable doing. But it does need to demonstrate 7 hours of work. That's 2 hours of research and 5 hours of putting it together. And I wanted to share with you a couple samples of what people have done. Let's see. All right, now somebody wanted to make a community center, and they wrote about this a little bit. They sent some links about stuff that they were looking at to help them create this. And I want you to look at this. This is based on traditional Molinese architecture. And this is how they decided that the community center should look. I thought that was really well done. And I want to show you a couple others that people have done. Here's a community bus. They did not have time to make an entire bus, but what they did was make one that seemed to fit what they were seeing with the Mali architecture and art that they had seen. So it's a scale model of a tour bus. And this person made jewelry. Now, this looks like something that is almost ordinary that you could find anywhere. You might think that, but what makes this a special project is that this person made it themselves, for one thing. And they did a lot of research trying to see what materials, what colors, what other things would be necessary and be appropriate for the jewelry. And they picked specific colors that were appropriate. They picked specific materials that were appropriate. And everything they did ties directly into their research on Molinese jewelry. So I thought this was a really fun approach as well. This is a couple rings that the person made. And they talked about how long it took and everything like that. But the materials that they used, they felt were consistent to Molinese culture, and they felt the design was consistent. And this individual makes jewelry. So this is something that they could do. Now these are designed to look like skates. What is kind of neat about this is I don't know whether or not you can use these skates, but they seem a little bit more consistent with the style that we've seen of Mali footwear, with materials that are a little bit more, that are quite a bit more consistent with that, with what we've seen of Mali 700 years ago. So this is leather straps to hold your feet in instead of plastic. It looks like a thick leather sole rather than that foam rubber that we're used to. And for wheels, they cut a number of wheels from wood, and then they burnt the edges and everything to bring out the grain a little bit so it looks nice, but also it kind of looks like it has that used feel to it. So that one turned out really well too. Now this one is they wanted to make a neck cooling fan, which I think is kind of fun. They made a neck cooling fan out of these materials. Now, all these materials are not all strictly Molinese. Like, look at this. This is foam clay, but they use foam clay in these colors. They chose those colors specifically because it looked to them like Mali terracotta. And it does. I think they're right. It does look like Mali terracotta. And the base of this was woven grass, which they also felt was appropriate material. So, and this, again, I am pretty solidly for sure that Mali never had cooling neck fans. But if they had, I'm pretty sure that they would look a lot like this. So this is another great example. Here's another example of jewelry made. And this is from somebody who is an accomplished silversmith. And they found a stone that was consistent with the area in Western Africa where Mali is from. And there's other options too, but generally, whatever stonework you're going to be picking, if you're going to go to the jewelry route, see if there's a record of it either existing in Mali or if Mali traded with the people who had the stone. Because I'd be willing to bet there probably is a record of that. And then you can find the stone, then you can use it. So this was a silver ring that was made. This one I like too. I mean, this person made a mug, and the mug is made out of rope that they put together very specifically to design it to look like a mug. And they glued it together and everything, and it does feel consistent to what people from ancient Mali might have had. You know, if they had the habit of having mugs like we do, their mugs could have looked like this. The person didn't have access to clay, so they used rope to kind of simulate that. And you can see the color is in that same kind of range of color that we saw with all the terracotta ware. I think this turned out really well too. So a lot of people were being very creative when they built these projects. Now this one, we're talking about Mali of 700 years ago. If you're going to do a flag from Mali of 700 years ago, look at an ancient history map and see what territory Sundiata and the Mali Empire covered. And then that's going to be the outline, not this. This is more like present day Mali. That's going to be the outline for the flag. And also consider what other colors it would be. It most likely will not look like today's Malinese flag. And I think some of these you can really see where people spend a lot of time on their project. Like this person designed a cat-friendly couch, and this person made a scale model of, this is scale model, and they didn't have all the exact materials that they thought the Malinese would have had 700 years ago. So they used things that approximated those materials and then explained in what they wrote what the materials, what they used stood for. Like this represents this animal hide. I like this one, and I'll tell you why. It looks like a Lego man. However, this is not a Lego man. This person decided that the Mali of 700 years ago, since they did not have Legos, they needed one. So this individual created a Lego man out of regular clay and then painted it. It was out of air drying clay and then painted it to look like how it might have looked if it was made out of terracotta and then polychromed in ancient Mali to have these colors. I thought that was a brilliant idea because it does look like it's ancient. It looks old because of the materials they use and the colors that they use. So that's an exceptional project as well. Now you will notice as I'm going through this that some of these items have not been turned in, and when they're not turned in, I don't have anything to show for it. But as soon as they get turned in, the 0 changes to another value. Now this one, I think this one is exceptionally nice because what this person did, remember that exercise where you're doing the kente cloth? The person did something similar to that, but they did embroidery. And they figured, well, okay, Molly didn't do embroidery the way I do, so I'm going to use colors and symbolism that I think is consistent with what they might have done. And so this artist extrapolated what Milanese artists would have done if they had access to embroidery thread. I think this turned out beautifully. It's a lot fancier than some people are doing, And this individual actually started building this at the beginning of the term, as soon as they saw that assignment, because they knew it would take a long time and they wanted to have the full effect. So this one did a lot more time than what I recommended because they spent so much energy on it. But it turned out beautifully, didn't it? Let's see, this person found out what resources Molly had. And they said they found out they used a lot of clay, wood, branches, and natural materials. And so they wanted to make a hairbrush. They wanted it to look like something that could have existed in the Mali world of 700 years ago. They made it out of terracotta and used pine needles for the bristles. Now this isn't actually this was not terracotta. They used mud that was the right color, and it was drying out. But thankfully, they took pictures of the process because when it was all dry, it actually started falling apart. But this turned out really well, and there's a couple reasons why I like this. One is they paid really close attention to the materials that the Mali Empire had access to. And another is that they found something that they use every day that they could reproduce in a so that it looked similar and looked like it would perform a similar function. And the third thing that they did was they figured out what the parallels of material were. So for the handle and body of the brush, they used clay, or something that looks like clay, and for the bristles, they used pine needles. So I thought that was a nicely done one as well. Now this person made a mug and cup holder, all right, or a coaster. They used air dry clay. They made it as a regular mug, but they painted it so it looked like it was terracotta, and they distorted the shape a little bit so that it fit more with what they saw in all that art from Mali that we were looking at. So they felt the shape was more consistent with that art that they saw from Mali, and they painted it so the color was consistent with the terracotta. Now you notice in all of these, nobody used the exact same materials that Mali had 700 years ago. Big part of that is that we don't have them. They're not easy to come by. But what all these folks did do is they created projects designed specifically to look like the Mali work, the ancient Mali work. And that's the most important part about this whole process. Doing the best you can to make sure it looks consistent with what you've seen with the Mali artwork. So I am going to now stop sharing. So those are all really good ideas. You know, I've listed in that final project module, I've listed in where to go to read up a little bit more about Sundiata. I also showed you, or I also sent links so that, or I'm sorry, I included links in that module so you can find other Jenne or Molinese artwork from that time period and get a better idea of the kinds of things we're looking at. As you look at those links, as you do your research, think about things like texture, materials. Like that one artist, she studied what kind of resources the Mali had available to them. And that's perfect. They would not have anything that was like clear plastic or like Play-Doh, bright neon colors, or anything like rayon or polyester. And if you don't have anything like what they have, if you don't have access to leather, if you don't have access to the metals or anything like that that they have, that's totally fine. Because the important thing is to take whatever you've decided to make and make it look like the resources come from Mali, and the colors come from Mali, and the shapes and designs come from Mali. This is an opportunity for you to show off your observation skills and to demonstrate that you understand the 4 tools of artistic critique, which are describe, analyze or talk about how it's made, interpret, talk about what it may mean, and evaluate. Is it successful? When you apply that to your own work, I want you to describe it to yourself. Look at it. Look at the details. Then ask yourself, is this made like how the Molly would have made something? And then does it mean the same thing? Well, it may not, but when you are paying attention to how somebody else made their art, you're getting a lot closer to understanding how they do the things they do and why they do the things they do. Then last, ask yourself if your work is successful. Looking at it, we're always our own worst critics. But when you look at it and see whether it's successful, does it look like the way it's supposed to? Is the aesthetic similar to the way that it's supposed to be? And does it stand up long enough that you can take photos of it? If it does those things and it feels like it belonged in the old Mali Empire, whether or not you made it this week, which you guys are all working on, if it looks like it belongs to the ancient Mali Empire 700 years ago, then you have been successful. Now, I would recommend if you are halfway through at least with your projects, go ahead and submit them. And with a note so I can look at them. If you don't want to submit it, email me an image of it and I will look at it and talk with you about it. If we were able to meet in class, I would have everybody bring their projects in this week so we could look at them and work on them. So I could talk to each and every person about how they're doing and how I can help them. Since we don't have that, I would like you to do what you can to send me photos. You can email photos to me or whatever, so I can look at it and see, and then you can ask me for any help that you might need. So far, the things that I've seen, I'm really happy with. I think they're really good, and I think you guys understand what the assignment calls for. Things are looking really good. So again, I wanted to remind you of the things to increase your scores and get your grade up. That is, make sure all the attendance is scored, that you have attended every single weekly meeting that I put up there. That second, you've retaken all the quizzes that you didn't get perfect scores on. Third, that you've resubmitted everything that I said needs to have some tweaks done to it. Fourth, that you've submitted every project that you've done. And fifth, that you're keeping track of all that and you let me know if I'm missing things that haven't been graded yet, that you've already turned in. So I would recommend doing all those things. I wanted to let you know that during COVID, one of my students was earning a D. They got about, I want to say, about a 64%, 62%, right around there. And I noticed that a lot of their stuff wasn't going on, wasn't being turned in. And I told them, are you going to take this class again, or are you going to try to get a good grade in this class? The guy said, well, I'm going to have to take it again. My parents have been sick, and I just haven't turned stuff in. And I said, well, you know what? If you've already done it, go ahead and turn it in. At the very least, there's a chance that you'll get a good enough grade you won't have to retake the class. And he thought, you know what, if I get at least a C plus, then I don't have to retake the class. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. He started turning his stuff in. And within the 4 days that he was turning stuff in, his grade went from a D minus all the way up to an A minus. And he was absolutely ecstatic. So keep that in mind. Double check, make sure that everything's turned in. And after you turn that in, make sure that I grade it. Like I said, I'm trying extra hard to make sure that I grade everything as soon as I see it. If it's not graded after 12 hours, let me know. All right? Now, I hope that everybody gets a better idea of the kinds of things we're expecting on the PowerPoint presentations and that you have solutions if things aren't working out, that you can't record it. I also hope that everybody has a better idea of what this final project is from our conversation last week and then this week as well. I hope that all of you guys have an absolutely amazing week. We're not going to do another weekly Teams get together. I'm sorry, I forgot what it was called. We're not going to do this again next week unless you guys all call me separately and tell me that you really can't go more than 7 days without watching an incredibly boring video from me. what I need you to look out for is I will email everybody and open up that final assignment, and you've got to take that. I showed you where it is. It's in the final module. In the email, I will send you a link to that. But you have got to take that if you want to get credit for this class, essentially. If you don't take the final, it will be dramatically detrimental to your grade. Make sure you take that. When you see it, again, 4 questions, 35-word answers to each one. And if you are honest, you use good grammar, and you keep the word count, and you match the word count, you're going to get a good score on the final. It is not a test. It is rather an evaluation of your own thinking regarding the course. I hope that helps everybody. I hope that's, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and email me, and I'll try to answer them as soon as possible. But I hope it helped to see a couple presentations, as well as several examples of the Molly artwork that you guys are making. And I hope that you noticed also that no 2 of those submissions were the same. Everybody's different. Everybody's going to do something differently. And that's one of the things that makes projects like this so interesting, is when people make things differently. Well, let's see. I did want to see one other thing. If you look at what's due in your assignments, you will see that the final assignment regarding Sundiata and the Mali Kingdom, there is also a discussion associated with that. That discussion needs to be done. What that is basically you get 10 points for taking your picture of your creation and posting it so the rest of the class can see it. And that's all. That's all it is. So as long as you do your final project, get those discussion points in as well. All right. Thank you very much. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend before finals. If you're stressed out about anything, talk to the accommodations office. And as you take a break for the holidays, make sure that you stay safe. I mentioned that Thanksgiving is one of the most dangerous holidays for travel. So is Christmas and New Year's. So just be extra, extra, extra careful. And particularly over New Year's, take care of yourselves and make sure that you stay healthy. Don't get in any dumb accidents. Don't get in any smart accidents. Don't get in any accidents at all. Just take care of yourself and watch out for the people around you. All right? I hope you guys have a wonderful week. And again, you will see that final stuff for me to take during the week. And if you have any questions, you can go ahead and give me a call, or rather email me. Thank you very much. We'll see you.